guess, race Simic Nexus before it starts comboing out.
So one of the things that the Esper midrange deck is good at doing is just reducing resources. And in a lot of ways, that's going to cut off a lot of the Nexus's deck to actually generate enough to combo off. So I like Esper's matchup here, to be sure, but without having something like a Thought Erasure, the closing speed of Esper is not great.
Yeah, well, some early speed could happen here. Kenta starts on Hero of Precinct 1. It's the 2/2 for 2. It makes a 1/1 every time Kenta casts a multicolored spell, which is early and often if you look at the deck list.
Yeah, and it looks like we're going to see a copy of Teferi Time Raveler coming down on Hiroki's side, and this is going to do a lot because it turns off the Wilderness Reclamation plays out of the Nexus deck.
Yeah, so the 3-mana Planeswalker can -3 here to make Samuel pick up that as Kenta. Gets a 1/1. But I like that thing. You're right. It absolutely turns off Wilderness Reclamation. I mean, you can make mana during your end step, but you can't cast a spell then.
Yeah, the best that you can really hope to do is just activate as Kanta or Blast Zone, something to that effect. But other than land activations, you're not going to get any more value out of that card. So in a lot of ways, it just turns off one of the most important cards of the deck.
Samuel down to 18 on the attack. And Kenta's, okay, actually considered plussing the Teferi there, if you noticed. Chose against it, but it was a close play.
Yeah, and a lot of the thought there was whether Kenta wanted to save it for something like a Wilderness Reclamation instead of a Search for Azcanta, when you just knows that Search for Azcanta is going to come back down the following turn.
Right.
And the Simic deck doesn't have a lot of turn 3 plays anyway.
Yeah, it hopes to kind of skip turn 3. Interesting to note that Samuel's third land was Blast Zone. So something that can clean up one of Kenta's cards over the course of a few turns. Now, also important to note, it's the not green mana, so right now Samuel's just playing with islands.
Right, that's a great point, and this is a spot where, maybe the Wilderness Reclamation lets him get some value off of a Blast Zone if he can find that green mana, but a lot of the thing that Blast Zone does for this deck is it's something that you can't really interact with very effectively, with it being a land. So it is possible to sort of let Bogue skip what Teferi's trying to do, play at instant speed, say at the end of Hiroki's turn, blow up everything that costs 3, and then go off from there.
Kenta attacked in for 3, made a Sorin Vengeful Bloodlord. That ping did 1 more damage with a plus ability, so Samuel's down to 14.
Sorin does not feel very good in this matchup. That's one of the first cards you reach for to take out of your deck whenever you're sideboarding with the Esper deck against Simic. This is definitely a sign of weakness on Kenta's side.
See Samuel put a Nexus of Fate into the graveyard with Azcanta, shuffled it in, but 4th land is another Blast Zone and still no green mana, no plays for Samuel. And 14, so we look at 14 life. Right now there's 4 power of creatures in play. Sorin can plus each turn. I think the question will be whether Kenta can certainly end the game in 3 attacks. Whether or not he can do it in 2, I think is going to be interesting here.
Yeah, I can agree with that. There's a point where we can talk about Kenta Straw being a little bit mopey, but having this Hero of Precinct 1 on turn 2 has just done so much for the deck.
Yeah, it was everything. So here we see another Teferi. This one's the Hero of Dominaria.
And it wouldn't shock me to see this card tucking the Search for Azcanta away, but it may also be that Hiroki, if you're playing things like Sorin, you may also just be interested in trying to find any kind of interaction.
Teferi is going to plus. Looks like Kenta wants another card. Thief of Sanity was the pickup. An attack for 4 will put Bogue down to 10. Plus from Sorin will put Bogue down to 9. And
Hiroki's also going to gain some life from the Sorin, but Simic Nexus tends to deal a lot of damage or no damage, so that's not quite as relevant here. That's why Sorin just is kind of unimpressive.
It's one of those matchups where only one side of the life pad really matters.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one where whenever I'm playing a combo deck, I try to change my life sheet every single match because I don't want someone to look over and see life totals changing on one side and know what's up.
Just have it be blank. Yeah. So Samuel's at 9. Kenta represents 6
Green
damage
source.
next turn. Is that Simic Guildgate?
No, he drew a forest. He milled the Guildgate.
Milled the Guildgate, okay.
Which is a risk, and I like it. This is a spot where Bogue realizes he doesn't have time to play a tapped Greenland. He needs to do something.
Yeah, it's hard, though, because I guess if Bogue can hope to take 1 more point of damage and have it be okay, the difficulty here is a lot of those cards that keep him alive are things like Root Snare that, as long as Teferi's on the board, isn't going to do much. Now, he's going to cast the card Bond of Flourishing. This one, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a permanent from among them. put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your graveyard library, but most importantly, you gain 3 life, which is almost certainly another turn here.
And luckily, there is the side of it where if he does have this Root Snare and an untapped land, then he can grow Blast Zone up to 3 counters to destroy Teferi Time Raveler. And it looks like he just put a copy of the Blue Memorial in his hand, which is a tap land. But if he does take this Blast Zone line to blow up the Teferi Time Raveler, he'll have 2 mana left over to Root Snare, which could buy him that additional turn he needs.
Yeah. Another plus from Sorin. Teferi Time Raveler on Kenta side up to 3, ready to draw another card if it needs to, but that ability, right, the static ability on Time Raveler is doing a lot of work.
Right, you would much rather have the quote-unquote hate card in your hand than just return an Ascanta to Sam's hand.
So plus from Sorin puts Samuel down to 11. Kenta's hand, and this is something with midrange, is not too much instant speed interaction. You see another Sorin, another Hero of Precinct 1, a Thief of Sanity, all great cards. But if Samuel gets to the, like Root Snare stage of the game, none of them really do much.
Right, and there's certainly a side of things where this is what we've seen with a lot of the Super Friends decks this weekend, is they rely on their Planeswalkers to generate an advantage. But if the advantage that those Planeswalkers is generating is something that's not very good in the matchup, like with this Sorin, for example, you're just going to feel kind of bad.
Thief of Sanity from Kenta, leaving up a few mana. And will be more mana with the Teferi. Almost certainly presenting lethal next turn. We see Kenta 4 1/1s, pair of 2/2s, and a Sorin represents 9 damage, so even through another Bond of Flourishing, will have lethal.
Yeah, casting this Thief of Sanity does not feel very good because you can assume that this Blast Zone is likely mopping up Teferi next turn in any of the games that you're not winning anyway. But what it does do is give you a 6th point of power with your creatures.
Yeah.
Even if the Thief of Sanity goes away. So just presenting lethal even through any type of interaction is nice.
And Samuel does not have that kind of interaction, so he'll pick up the cards, and Hiroki takes game 1. In what looked to be a spot where the Nexus deck, because of those hate cards from Hiroki, just felt like it wasn't doing anything, right? He just kind of played a land each turn, slowly got attacked. But Teferi Time Raveler, I feel like, was the hidden hero of that game.
Yeah, I can agree with that. There's also a point where combo decks in general a lot of times will kind of spin their wheels and stare at their hand and shuffle the cards around and maybe mill something and cantrip here, and then all of a sudden they're at 0 life, time's up, and they go to the next game.
Yeah. How different is that game if Kenta doesn't have turn 2 Hero Precinct 1?
Incredibly. There we saw Hero is actually what gave Kenta the ability to close. And without just having something to apply pressure in the form of damage, this Nexus deck will go over the top over the Planeswalker advantages. It doesn't care how many resources it's down, as long as it has enough resources to take a million billion turns.
So looking at the sideboards from the players, on Kenta Hiroki's side, 3 Cry the Carnarium, 2 Narset, the 3-mana Narset. I guess the only Narset in Standard. 2 Elder Spells, 2 Dovin's Veto, 2 Hostage Shaker, 2 Duress, a Kaya's Wrath, and then a Vraska's Contempt. A lot of this is removal, which I don't think is going to come in, but the non-removal, all of it seems pretty decent here.
Yeah, so the things that you're looking to bring in here, Narset's very nice because it turns off things like Chemister's Insight and also just digs you to your other interactive pieces. There's certainly a case to be made for the Elder Spell because it's able to take out Tamio, which hurts your hand disruption, which is one of your primary forms of interaction. Dovin's Veto, obviously very good against a creatureless deck. Duress, very good against a creatureless deck. And then you can also make a case for Vraska's Contempt because it's something else that can tag a Tamio in a pinch. And there's a lot of creature removal and things like Sorin that you're just pretty interested in getting out of your deck anyway.
It's interesting, especially with the way Esper midrange has started to shape up. Only 1 copy of Mortify, main or sideboard from Kenta, does mean that if a card like Wilderness Reclamation shows up, it can be a vulnerability for the list.
Yeah, absolutely. Just not having anything other than that or D-Spark to take care of it is something that could end up coming to bite him. But with all the hand disruption that he has, his goal is to either just take out the Wilderness Reclamation before it comes down or strip the deck of its relevant things that it would do with the mana with its hand disruption.
So we were talking earlier about the Players' Championship race. That concludes in just about a month at SCGNY featuring the Invitational. So that is a full weekend of events in Roanoke, Virginia. If you qualify for the Invitational, of course, be part of the Players' Championship race. You can show up there. But there's a ton of exciting other events and big tournaments as well, which you can find out at all about at our page, starcitygames.com/SCGCon. So I had to leave you out, and there wasn't a go on that one, so I didn't really know how to... That one...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine.
I know you're thinking about doing the Team Eternal event at SCGCon?
Well, I was thinking about it when my good friend Matthias Hunt was thinking of playing it with me, but unfortunately it appears he has other obligations than being my 93-94 partner.
That is an excellent point. Yeah, I was looking forward to playing it, but no, I will be on coverage for the event.
Sick brags.
I want to cover that. Yeah, you know, like...
Me
it's okay.
too,
Maybe we can duo queue. But yeah, that is what Eternal is. 93, 94, Vintage, and Legacy.
Yeah.
Is the team constructed format.
It is going to be nice. I'm pretty sure any of the new bordered cards in Legacy and Vintage make you lower your hand size, your starting hand size.
Okay.
Like, it's just ugly, right? You're just supposed to play with the old bordered cards, right? Cue the Drake meme with the do not like face with any of the newer brainstorms, and then the one happy face pointing at the Ice Age artwork or the Mercadian Masks artwork. Memes are so much worse when you say them out loud.
It's nice. I like explaining the internet. I'm a big fan of.
Someone has to be, because I'm not. I did not like that at all.
See, this is a picture of a cat that we cut a lime in half and put it on the cat's head. See, it's so much better when you just say it that way.
Would you look at that, a game of Magic?
Samuel Bogue on the play here, having dropped the first game, both players keeping on 7. Some sideboard duresses in Kenta's hand. Interested to see if he's going to fire it off right away or hold it. Sometimes in this matchup you'll see, you know, a turn 2 or 3 duress, but...
Yeah, on the draw, you might want to just go ahead and fire it off to try and tag something like Growth Spiral or Search for Kenta. But on the play, you really might just want to hold it if you don't have something like Hero of Precinct 1 or Thought Erasure to do on 2.
And we'll get that Search for Kenta. There's 2 options for Kenta. It's Search and Wilderness Reclamation. He'll pick the Search. So Bogue's hand is left with a pretty slow holdings. It's 2 Hinterland Harbors, a Biogenic Ooze, a Wilderness Reclamation, and a Hydroid Krasis.
I'll have to give him credit. He led with the original Art Hinterland Harbor, which plays right into the spirit of what we were just talking about.
I did notice that we have multiple, we have different Hinterland Harbors.
To be fair, with some cards, it just really doesn't matter. People will get upset about it, but I mean, let's be honest. No one's going to go, oh my gosh, I can't believe Simic Nexus has 4 Hinterland Harbors.
This is actually an interesting one. Kenta has Dovin's Veto to hold up and knows Wilderness Reclamation is on the way. However, wants at some point to make a card like Narset or Thief of Sanity, both of which are in his hand, but not willing to let Reclamation resolve.
Yeah, and that just makes sense. That card basically represents a ton of virtual card advantage, where all of your lands all of a sudden are worth 2 lands.
A big miss here from Bogue. It was an end-step Growth Spiral that did not place a land into play and then drew for the turn and also missed a land. So Samuel missed a land drop. On turn 5 here, gets that 4th land, and wisely put a player on the Dovin's Veto, goes for Hydroid Krasis for 2.
This is very heads up on Sam's part, just being able to sniff it out.
Yeah. Now, Kenta up to 5 mana. We can get to something like Thief of Sanity with Dovin's Veto up now.
Yeah, this is the spot where you're probably interested in playing the Thief of Sanity, just because if you play the Narset, you're going to get 1 less card off of it when the Hydroid Krasis attacks. Whereas this lets you set up a line where you cast the Thief of Sanity, attack the following turn with the Thief of Sanity, and hope the Hydroid Krasis trades, and then slam your Narset on an empty battlefield.
That's the play from Kenta. I believe also has Hostage Taker in hand, so Kenta, if this board stays at parity, will have options. Could also try to remove the Krasis and connect with the Thief.
Right, this is a spot where he likely would rather Hostage Taker the Biogenic Ooze because he has fewer answers to it, and a 2/2 Krasis doesn't matter that much.
Now this is interesting. The play's actually going to be Narset into that Krasis.
That's an interesting one. A lot of this is him likely just digging for other cards and being willing to accept that this Narset's going to take a hit if he doesn't think Thief of Sanity is particularly good on this battlefield. He also could just have a read on something like Blink of an Eye.
Teferi in the top 4 here on Narset. Also a replacement Narset available. It'll be Teferi. Time Raveler, 3-mana card for Kenta.
And the nice thing about Teferi is it almost lets him not have to hold up these Dovin's vetoes for the Wilderness Reclamation, because then you can bounce the Wilderness Reclamation and worry less about it.
Or you can bounce it. Also, at the same time, you can just, if you have Teferi, you can just let Wilderness Reclamation be in play.
Exactly. With 2 Dovin's vetoes, he's likely to bounce it and then try to counter it on the way back down, but it's just such a huge tempo play for him.
Krasis attacks. Narset is down to 1. Bogue's side will be a tap land, 2-mana spell. Wondering what we're looking at here.
I believe it's a Thorn Lieutenant. It looks like Bogue has mostly just sideboarded into a creature plan here. Alright, and it looks like the Wilderness Reclamation has been cast here. Hard to imagine Hiroki doesn't just choose to pull the trigger on this Dovin's veto when he knows there's a Biogenic Ooze coming down soon.
Yeah, so, I mean, if he doesn't, then Samuel gets to untap. He's got, I think he only has the 1 Dovin's veto.
That's
so is
right,
there a
the
more
other
important card to hold it for?
The card you may be thinking of is something like Nexus or Tameo.
Sure. In the end, Kenta decides, yes, that is worthy of the counterspell. Draws the turn. It doesn't have land 6, and that's a harder one. I think the way this game's shaping up with 6 cards in hand, Kenta would like to continue developing mana. Actually, looks like we do have land 6. Hostage Taker, going to take the Krasis hostage. Doing this, though he knows about Biogenic Ooze, it wants to go ahead and get this one out of the way.
The idea here is likely that he can use this Teferi to just unsummon the token that the Ooze makes and then ignore the Ooze itself, or make Bogue commit a bunch more mana into just generating a token. And if Kenta thinks he can just go over the Ooze, then one creature or having to commit that much mana into it isn't something he's that worried about.
Here is Biogenic Ooze from Bogue. No counterspell on Hiroki's side, so Ooze makes a token and they both get 1/1 counters. See if Hiroki can answer. So is a situation where I want to go back to that turn 5 play from Hiroki, where he decided to go for Narset over Thief of Sanity. It's feeling right now, because he hasn't actually cast the card that Narset even found, that maybe Thief could have done more on this board.
Yeah, it's possible. A lot of it was him just likely trying to figure out how he needed to sculpt the game, because he didn't know he was going to end up with a Teferi. Right. And that could have changed his decisions along the way.
He will cast now the Teferi. That was the card that Narset found. Teferi will unsummon, presumably, the Ooze token. Actually, he'll go straight for the Ooze itself. Draws Oath of Kaya. But he's going to do the 1-2 punch. I think it's Thought Erasure here.
Right.
Yeah, I like this unsummon and Thought Erasure. Look at the cards for Bogue. Chemister's Insight, Chemister's Insight.
Oof.
Blink of an Eye, Ugin, Biogenic Ooze, and Thorn Lieutenant. That is a lot of haymakers.
Threat.
Still feels like you have to take the Biogenic Ooze, even though there's all these other cards.
Yeah, all the other spells you can likely answer more easily than a Biogenic Ooze.
Yeah.
There's a point where when you have a bunch of Thief of Sanities and the like, you can probably just try to attack down an Ugin.
Yeah,
and Bogue also is lacking the mana for it right now.
Yeah, you're really hoping that Bogue misses that land drop here. I mean, those Chemister's Insights don't do anything as long as Narset's on the board.
Hey, they cycle on Hiroki's turn.
Yeah. Bogue hoping to draw that 6th land. Does he do it?
Oh, is that a Memorial?
Oh no, it's almost. The Ooze is going to attack Narset. Kenta either will lose the Planeswalker or the Hostage Taker. It's interesting to see which one he deems as worth more here.
I would likely end up trumping with the Hostage Taker to try and turn off those Chemister's Insights. You don't care that much about casting Krasis. Cards are not the squeeze you're on right now.
Yeah, just finding a turn where you can spend all that mana is not for free.
Exactly.
And you're right, it was Memorial. That was the draw here, unfortunately.
Bogue playing Guildgate combo over here, unfortunately.
Yeah, and one of his 3 copies of Memorial to Genius.
Ooh, this is a big draw.
So Hero of Precinct 1 picked up for Kenta.
This is the card where things get to start snowballing because Bogue doesn't really have any hard answers to Hero of Precinct 1.
Right.
And this is the thing that just tacks extra value onto every spell that Kenta casts.
5 mana from Hiroki, so 2 for the hero, 3 for Oath of Kaya. He'll make a 1/1. Shoots down probably the biogenic, the ooze token.
I believe we go for the biogenic ooze, but there's a point where if he's planning to chump block either of them anyway, he may just end up targeting the third lieutenant, since Hero of Precinct 1 checks the 1/1 token. You're a little bit more worried about the creature that can become a 5/6 and provide a mana sink for the Nexus deck later on.
And that is what Kenta chooses. Takes care of the 2/3. Of course, because an ability targeted it, Samuel will get a 1/1. Back to Bogue we go. Now, Ugin the Ineffable is in Bogue's hand, and the coast looks to be clear for it.
Yeah, this is certainly a spot where Kenta is likely just jamming both copies of Thief of Sanity, hoping to make a couple tokens and attack down the Ugin the following turn.
Right. Yeah, this is a situation where, remember, Kenta's not actually playing Esper Control, it's Esper midrange, so rather than countering everything, at some point Kenta's hoping to jam threats and turn the corner.
Exactly.
Ooze attacks, the 1/1 chump blocks, and here is Ugin the Ineffable. Big threat here from Bogue. It's the 1 copy out of the sideboard. -3 can destroy any permanent that's 1 or more colors. Instead, he's going to go ahead and +1 it.
I believe Ugin should be at 5.
Yeah, Ugin +1 does go to 5. We'll get that one corrected on the screen here. Two color Spirit token. When that token leaves the battlefield, Samuel will get that card in his hand.
And this is one of the ways for the Nexus deck to generate card advantage without being restricted by Narset.
And I like this. The game has switched from a control versus ramp strategy now into this mid-range fight. Kenta, second hero of Precinct 1.
Is there a die on that blast zone?
Yeah.
There should be, and it's very relevant because we don't want it to be killing 0 drops when this.
Yeah, you wish sometimes it could have.
Yeah.
Yeah, one charge counter right now in the blast zone. Basilical Bellhaunt was the follow-up for Kenta. Gets 2 1/1s, gains 3. Samuel will discard a card.
Yeah, casting the Bellhaunt doesn't feel great here when you know your opponent has Chemister's Insights that are being turned off, but it is able to basically team up with one of these tokens to take down the Ooze token, or the 3/3 Ooze token is already small enough. Excuse me.
Yeah, Bellhaunt is a 3/4.
Right,
so.
right. Long story short, this Ooze is about to get it.
Samuel's hand, mostly instants here, so he'd really like to get that Teferi off the board. We know about a Chemister's Insight and a Blink of an Eye. Kenta knows about them too. It looks like the third card Samuel has picked up since then is Growth Spiral.
Kenta may be holding these Thieves of Sanity in order to try and dodge Blast Zone. It's already such a strong card against the battlefield he has.
Just on 3, how good
Right.
it is. I could see that. It's interesting. Samuel's thinking about attacking that 2/2 just into a larger creature. That might be a really good card that's under it.
Right, and that's the spot where Kenta has to figure, does he want to kill it? Does he want to throw away one of these tokens in a chump block?
Right. Ugin -3 appears to be laid from Samuel. Well, that'll take care of the Narset. Narset's destroyed. That opens the door for Chemister's Insight, and Samuel will walk right through it with drawing 2 main phase.
And he hits 2 lands, and it looks like those are what he was wanting to draw.
Yeah, I think so. Growth Spiral's the play. Can now put, well, both of them into play if he'd like.
Yeah, whenever you have a land, Growth Spiral frequently just feels like a 1-mana Mox.
It is not bad. Back over to Kenta we go. Samuel picked up a copy of Tamiyo that turn. Unable to cast it just yet.
Ooh, there's a pickup for Kenta.
Yeah, Dovin's Veto, especially with 2 Hero Precinct 1s in play, that is a mighty fine card to have. And this is just so interesting. We've gotten kind of into this mid-range slog between the 2 decks. Both players with well-protected Planeswalkers, both players drawing cards.
And this is a spot as well where Kenta has the ability to effectively sacrifice his Teferi to get rid of Ugin. If he wanted to -3 Teferi, target his own Oath of Kaya, target Ugin.
Yeah.
That's a way to permanently deal with Bogue's Planeswalker, but he has to give up a hate card in the matchup to do it.
Yeah, and it feels like maybe Kenta will just have to do that. The issue here is that if we get into a mid-range fight, the Simic Nexus deck, in general, has more powerful cards. Now, this is neat. He's going to use the -3 on Teferi, but it's not going to be targeting Ugin. It's going to be targeting the Ooze token, perhaps clearing the way for an attack on Ugin.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, blink of an eye in Samuel's hand, and because Teferi is off the battlefield, Samuel paused. With this trigger on the stack, Samuel can now again cast instants.
Correct.
Decides not to, but that's the first window Samuel's had to finally cast Blink.
Ooh. Speaking of big pickups, D-Spark off the top. That's got to look good.
Yeah, that was with the Teferi. I mean, just any gold card here. The fact that they're all making a pair of 1/1s, just... It's really kind of showcasing, again, game 1, we saw how a turn 2 hero precinct 1 just was everything for Kenta. This game, Kenta didn't have it on turn 2, but even the turn 7 hero and the turn 9 hero, or whatever he had, are still doing so much work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, D-Spark will shoot down Ugin, and now the board clearly in Hiroki's favor. Was able to remove the Planeswalker. And has Dovin's Veto in hand. I like everything about it.
Right. This is the spot that we were talking about going into the match where, you know, the two decks, if you don't ignore the tokens, have the same quantity of raw materials, roughly.
Right.
But the Esper midrange deck has picked apart the important pieces of what the Simic Nexus deck is doing, and now the Simic deck kind of just has a ton of air.
Just an attack, leaving up Dovin's Veto for Kenta. Samuel moves Blast Zone to 2. Might be forced into cleaning up this board before the heroes do anything more damage.
You've gotta. The longer you wait, the worse things get.
Yeah, it seems like he's a lock to cast 1 or 2 gold cards every turn.
Exactly, and there's this point where adding that extra bit of value, even if a 1/1 doesn't seem significant, is just so big.
Samuel's not going to do it, and it's going to be get punished for it. He tries for Tamiyo. Kenta will counter, and because those heroes are still there, that's 2 more 1/1s. And that's hero tokens number 5 and 6. Kenta's board's getting mighty big here.
Those brand new Shaheen Sarani tokens that you get with every single open entry on the SCG Tour.
And now that that's countered, how does Samuel follow up?
Oof, it feels so bad to do this now.
Yeah, and he still has to. And it's the kind of play where I actually really respect making it, because you know that things have been done suboptimally, but it's still the right play,
right?
Even so.
And, you know, there's maybe even a point where Hiroki seemed to not have Dovin's Veto before, so Tamiyo, if you cast it there, roll up, you might want to have the mana left to hit something, but he definitely got punished for the way he played it.
Back to Hiroki. Full attack means that 7 damage connects through. Bogue is down to 9. Now Kenta follows up with Thief of Sanity. At least 1. We'll see whether he wants to make 2. Answer is no, just 1 Thief is fine.
He has a D-Spark hiding out in his hand, which can tag anything from Tamiyo to Wilderness Reclamation.
Yeah, it can hit both.
Mm-hmm.
That's really
Could
good.
even hit a Biogenic Ooze before it puts a counter on the Ooze. There's only 1. Kenta doesn't know that.
I was interested... Earlier in the game, Samuel considered chump blocking with that 2/2 because there's of the card that was under it. Now Kenta's giving him that option. With Basilica Bellhaunt, Samuel could cash in that card, and I'm wondering if there's a card that's worth doing that on Samuel's side.
Yeah, that's a little tough. I believe that Bogue would have done it if it were a great card, but before, remember, he was kind of looking for land drops,
Sure.
and it looked like he was chump attacking then. So it's likely that it's just a land under there that he had previously wanted, more specifically an untapped one. And now that he's a little bit more flooded, he's less interested and would rather have the 2/2 body.
Bogue jumpstarts that Chemister's Insight out of his graveyard. Draws into Wilderness Reclamation and a land. And it seems like it might just be time for Reclamation. Let's go for Search for Kenta.
The thought here is likely he just doesn't have that much to do with the Wilderness Reclamation mana in the first place, so transforming an Ascanta is going to be better in the long run.
Maybe, actually, we need to check that. That green card may have been something different.
It's possible it's Crushing Canopy.
It is Crushing Canopy. There we go, and that'll take care of the Thief. So no connecting there. Last card in Samuel's hand is Blink of an Eye. Both players are aware of this.
At this point, it looks like Kenta picked up a copy of Duress.
An attack. And I like this from Samuel. He's all the timing here is going to work against him, though. He blocks Basilica Bellhunt to put that card in his hand. Now Kenta's going to Duress. See what it was. Crowl Harpooner. So Blink of an Eye is the card he loses. Yeah, Harpooner's not going to do too much here. Samuel drops to 5. I mean, I guess Kenta it might be possible he doesn't cast Thief of Sanity now.
Yeah, it's a weird spot. You probably end up casting it anyway because the Harpooner is going to deal with some number of creatures anyway. It's whether it deals with a token or the Thief. But it's also possible he just wants to kind of not lose to Bogue having extra blockers here.
It feels like so, but we're going to get a transformation off the Searcher Ascanta this turn. Because the card that it feels like Samuel would need to win is Wilderness Reclamation, but the fact that Kenta has D-Spark makes me think I'm not really sure what Bogue's drawing to.
Yeah, so let's see how much mana he has. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 with the Ascanta transformation, which likely just means drawing to that. He could also possibly go towards Root Snare.
Here's Tamiyo. All right, I guess with Tamiyo you can just name Root Snare right now.
Yeah.
You might have to. You can't name Nexus of Fate, don't have enough mana. One short.
Could he possibly minus Tamiyo get back Hydroid Crisis to try and play around D-Spark?
Same thing, but it looks like he's going to do Biogenic Ooze instead.
That's reasonable. All it's going to do is provide a chump blocker for the Basilica Bellhunt.
A pair of oozes, so Kenta can D-Spark one of the two. But actually, Kenta is right now, Samuel gets another turn, right? D-Spark takes care of the ooze proper. One blocker, so Kenta can only force 4 damage, not 5.
Yeah, what's likely going to happen here is something like 2 tokens at Tamiyo and then 2 tokens in Bellhunt at Bogue.
So then Bogue has to block one of the 3 things attacking him, and he'll lose the Tamiyo.
Correct.
It does mean he gets to keep the ooze. The other play, I guess, is that Kenta can send everything at Samuel, and then Samuel has to lose the block for the ooze. But I think your block is better. Your attack is better.
Yeah, I think trading a token for... I think trading a token for Tamiyo is worth it.
Looks like Kenta sends everything Bogue's way. It's possible it was Bellhunt at Tamiyo, but either way, Bellhunt gets chump blocked, Bogue goes to 1. So but this is, I think, a small, minor misstep for Hiroki.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Having the ability to roll up the Tamiyo here is pretty rough. It may just feel that with this D-Spark he has it covered and he would rather deal the damage to Bogue to turn off some of the later outs.
I mean, the issue, right, is that the Tamiyo naming Nexus of Fate here is just pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty rough because it's just basically the difference between 1 and 2 life, or is it 3 and 1 life? I suppose if you block one of the tokens, you go to 3, so this could turn off Breeding Pool.
Right.
But I don't think that that's the squeeze that is important here. Would you rather your opponent have a Tamiyo or be able to shock in a Breeding Pool?
Yeah, I agree. So Tamiyo up to 3. See which card Samuel names. Tamiyo, you name a card. He's going to name it Hydroid Crisis.
Well, he has a Nexus in his hand. 2 options. It resolves or it doesn't.
Nexus of Fate resolves.
Is this going to happen?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and this is a spot, D-Spark that Kenta had ended up being cast on the ooze and not the Tamiyo, and because Nexus is happening, it feels like some missed opportunities, but this Tamiyo is going to do a bunch of damage.
Yeah, and now we see Crow Harpooner hitting the battlefield. Maybe that means that he thinks it's time. Like, basically, you get infinite turns here or lose anyway, so you might as well develop the threat.
And one more mana is going to be huge here if Samuel draws it, because right now he has 10 mana. But with 11 mana, you can Nexus and use Search each turn.
Right, and there's even a spot where if he can find a Nexus this turn, he could even look into, say, just getting back Wilderness Reclamation with Tamiyo instead of continuing to roll her up.
Yeah. This is going to be interesting. I suppose, yeah, he's going to cash out the Tamiyo to get back Hydroid Gracis. And plays another land here. Huh. With another land here, I think I would have liked to have started the turn by using Kenta. That's enough mana, you have 7 mana, and if Kenta finds Nexus of Fate, then I'm plussing the Tamiyo, casting Nexus, and moving on.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Instead, what he's going to do is not use it, and he's going to cast a X equals 9 Hydroid Gracis, gaining him up to 5. This does mean
he likely gets another turn.
He likely gets another turn.
2 blockers here.
Yeah, needs to be 2 removal spells. I don't think Kenta can do that.
No, it looks like he just has a couple lands hiding out with that last Thief of Sanity in his hand.
Yeah, Kenta picks up the cards. This is just going to get worse and goes to 1. We thought was a loss, but Samuel Bogue with the turnaround forces a 3rd game.
Yeah, and Kenta here that concession may seem a bit premature, but the Nexus deck can take so long to win.
Oh yeah.
That you probably just don't want to spend, say, 5 minutes losing when you only have 15 minutes on the clock with a mid-range deck.
I really like this concession. 14 minutes is not a huge amount of time, and especially with how Esper mid-range plays and Simic Nexus plays, though we just hit the inflection point, just hit the turnaround, that game's not close anymore.
Right, that's a spot where Kenta he's not even close to 0% to win, but he's probably only 10%.
And I don't even know if he's that. Yeah, I mean, point taken, though.
Exactly.
When things got bad for this deck, they get really bad. Samuel just drew 4 cards, has Kenta in play, and Kenta's hand is land, 2/2 flyer. That's just not going to cut it.
Yeah, there comes a point where even if you don't necessarily have the hard numbers to back it up, do you think the odds are higher of you clawing back into that game and winning? That you think that matters, or that you think the few minutes that you wasted end up mattering in game 3?
Well, I think we look at the number of ways that the game actually ends on the following turn. Samuel drew 4 cards. And has enough mana to Nexus and Kenta next turn. So first off, one of those 4 cards just is a Nexus. Well, then Samuel's going to Nexus, Kenta, find another Nexus. Like, the ability for him just to go infinite here, pretty high. And even if somehow he didn't find a Nexus in those 4 cards, he maybe found another Krasis, found a Tamiyo, found a Root Snare even. All these cards are unbeatable for Kenta. Just the number of 4 cards that Samuel could have drawn that don't win is really small.
Yeah, absolutely. And, there's even a point where you just want to make sure that you get to win the game.
Yeah.
Right? Because we saw how long that game took, and Bogue only took 1 extra turn. There's a spot where even if he ends up fizzling, being able to take extra turns and the like can ruin how extra turns end up working.
So what happened to that game then for Kenta? Because for most of the game, it looked like I thought he was going to pick up the win.
It felt like he bricked for a couple of draws. The Nexus deck is incredibly redundant, and we saw the threat density in that game from the Nexus side so much higher than it was in the first game. So it's a lot harder for Esper midrange to pick apart every single card that matters. And then those card advantage engines like Chemister's Insight, like Azcanta the Sunken Ruin, like Tamiyo, end up kind of taking over, where something a little bit more incremental, like Hero of Precinct 1, that card isn't actually providing any kind of value here outside of damage, and damage doesn't matter if you deal less than 20.
What I want to watch is how Kenta balances his aggression. So during that game, I think Kenta chose a very aggressive line by spending that last D-Spark on Biogenic Ooze and then sending all the creatures at Bogue. I think Kenta, it may have been overplayed of just a hair. Where, at some point you need to answer their life total and stop answering their threats. I love the aggression and the way Kenta's approaching the matchup, because that is what this is about. finding the exact point of just when you overplay that aggression is a delicate thing. And I think for most of the game, Kenta did it really well, perhaps too much at the end, but it sure shows what the strategy should be.
Yeah, it definitely feels like that last attack when there was a Tamio and an Ooze token on the battlefield was kind of the point where things tipped the other way, where Kenta could have destroyed a Tamio, gotten in 2 points of damage or something to that effect, and still been pretty happy with how things turned out, but that was not the case.
Samuel on a mulligan to 6, scries to the bottom, and we are going for game number 3. 6-card hand for Samuel. I think the first check I'm looking at, Kenta does have a turn 3 Thief of Sanity.
Yeah, and it looks like Bogue does have his 1 copy of Crushing Canopy to check it, but he doesn't really have much going on other than that.
Yeah. So we saw last game, as long as neither player has anything going on, that might be good enough for Bogue. If both players just quietly play 6 lands, I think that favors Simic Nexus.
And one thing I want to talk about that Hiroki just did is he did not represent this Dovin's Veto in his hand on turn 2 when he had the option to do so.
I love that play. It's just a bit of misdirection, but it can go a long way in this situation.
Yeah, it definitely says, all right, if you have a search, it happens. And that's Hiroki basically saying, that's not what I'm fighting over this game.
Thief of Sanity presented by Hiroki. Crushing Canopy almost certainly has to be played here. There is a veto in Kenta's hand, and that's where the bluff... Samuel might think, hey, there's no veto. Maybe I can do something else. It is Crowl Harpooner, though. The card is, simply put, just too good for him to not answer, and he'll make search for Azcanta with that extra land draw.
This is a big turn 4 from Bogue. Or turn 3 from Bogue, excuse me. Growth Spiral's nice.
Yeah, a bit of a fall behind here now for Kenta. Hero of Precinct 1, Dovin's Veto, and Narset all are options in Kenta's hand.
Yeah, and we're likely going to see the hero come down. You know, this is just, we saw game 1 how important it is that Hiroki actually presents some sort of tangible clock.
Yep, game 1, and even in game 2, this has been the all-star in the matchup, and it's going to be Hero of Precinct 1 for Kenta.
Right.
But the onboard search right now gets to stay, as Samuel moves up to 5 mana. Blink of an Eye, Chemister's Insight in hand. It's going to be a blink with kicker main upkeep on hero. I like the timing here. It's going to... Kenta actually has options. He can Dovin's Veto this. There's also, and I like this more, just saying yeah, and picking it up and recasting it.
Yeah, I think this one's a little hard to say which is definitely better or worse. This is effectively a time walk for Bogue.
Right.
But there's a spot where you only have this 1 Dovin's Veto, so you likely just need to be more patient with it than that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I like here. Kenta, I like how he's balanced the aggression there, right? The aggressive play is to keep your board, make a 1/1, and counter the spell. Kenta here now, instead rather than choosing to develop the Teferi, saying in a couple turns later, he'll get the Hero Precinct 1 down and the damage will still be good.
And this is him just wanting to make sure that he actually gets to turn off something like Wilderness Reclamation.
So we saw the recast search for Azcanta. That was hit by the Dovin's Veto. And then Samuel, that clears the way for Narset Parter of Veils on an empty board. That's a huge tool for Simic.
Yeah, this card's effectively just dig through time in a combo deck here.
Yeah, it's really strong. And Samuel has set this up in a very nice way where he somehow has got a board where he has this plain Narset on a board with no threats, no heroes in play, meaning he's going to get 2 -2s off it.
Right, and this was likely the biggest motivating factor in that Blink of an Eye play that we saw last turn.
Yeah, clear the way for Narset. The search for Azcanta was the bait spell. First Narset trigger does find a copy of Wilderness Reclamation. Kenta redeploys the hero, but it's going to be another card for Bogue. -2 again for Narset. The question is whether Bogue has a land. Narset can't find a land, and it's the thing Samuel wants the most.
Yeah, and you know, we see 3 lands in Kenta's hand, so it's possible that Teferi play last turn was mostly him trying to dig for more action.
Yeah, I don't know how much more. Yeah, whether it's all lands, isn't it? Kenta has no more spells. That is danger. Just 6:30 on the clock here. Samuel doesn't know it, but he's got a pretty strong lead here because of Kenta's hand.
Right. This is something where it may look like that Esper just is kind of choking on answers, but that's not the case.
Here is Tamiyo. That was the card found off Narset. Kenta will check the counter spells and then say it resolves. I like the play.
Yeah, and there's a spot where, or there's a point where the way that these combo decks that don't have a ton of counter magic end up beating counter magic is just calling the bluff over and over and over, and then when they don't have it, the coast is clear.
So Samuel named Kydroid Krasis to Tamiyo. He missed and put cards into the graveyard. Also, another thing on missed the land drop for the turn. Fairy up to 3 for Kenta. Narset is attacked down by Hero Precinct 1. Kenta's draw is just another land, it looks like. So right now, it's just Hero and Teferi.
I'm not positive that I love attacking down this Narset because now Tamiyo has the ability to rebuy it. And then Bogue will have 2 planeswalkers that are out of range of Hero killing it.
It's interesting on the rebuy on Narset.
I guess on the other side, you can just rebuy so many different things with Tamiyo that Kenta's just under the assumption that there's a good card coming back no matter what.
Yeah, he's going to rebuy the land, a basic forest. And I was going to say rebuying Narset normally is good, but because the only thing Samuel doesn't have is lands, maybe it's not Narset he wants. And yeah, it gets a land here, and now it's just me Ugin the Ineffable. Samuel has correctly sussed out that there's nothing in Kenta's hand, and this Ugin should really confirm it.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot that Bogue may be trying to sniff out, because I see a Nexus, if I'm not mistaken, as well as a Wilderness Reclamation, which he would be able to just go here. So he's still playing that balancing act of saying, okay, well, can you answer this? And Ugin is one where if Hiroki doesn't do anything about an Ugin,
Yeah, and remember, we really need to look at the clock here, because if we get to 5 extra turns, the Simic Nexus combo is a turn-based combo. So it doesn't play. A lot of combo decks can, like Storm, for example. As long as you start your combo and turn 4 extra turns, you're fine. That is not true of Simic Nexus.
Correct.
Kenta picked up Thought Erasure.
Ooh, that's rough with a Tamiyo on the battlefield.
Yeah, I was going to say, normally you'd say, hey, Teferi plus Thought Erasure, great. But you're absolutely right. The passability on Tamiyo stops that from happening. And wait. We cannot do that. We're going to pause there.
Well, you can look at the hand
okay, you can look at
surveil.
it. That's true. You can look at the hand and surveil, but you cannot make them discard a card. And so we will make... Yeah. Fortunately, we stopped that before they shuffled, because that would have been a mess. I mean, you still get to look at the hand. And you may select a card, and then they will not discard it. Yeah. So Judge is talking here how to resolve this. The passive ability on Tamiyo reads, spells and abilities your opponent control can't cause you to discard cards or sacrifice permanents.
This is just one more of the abilities on the brand new Planeswalkers out of the War of the Spark. And this is something that it's new to War of the Spark. So even these players who are both doing well, obviously experienced, both playing Planeswalkers with passive abilities, it's easy to miss this stuff.
I had a chance to talk to the scorekeeper of the tournament between rounds yesterday, and the one thing she had said was, boy, people just don't know that Teferi and Narset are Magic cards.
Yeah, and I don't even think it's necessarily anyone's fault. It's easy to forget that these Planeswalkers kind of function like enchantments a lot of the time. The passive
abilities. Yeah, I'm saying that there's just been tons of... This situation has been happening right now, especially because we have all these new cards.
Right, and we've kind of been conditioned by, 15 years almost of this card type now?
Oh. So, game rule violation was assessed. Nexus does stay in hand, so that's a warning. But the Thought Erasure resolves. Back to Bogue we go, and attack with the 2/2. We will add that time extension on as soon as we get it. So the judge will generally award one in those situations. But players should move on, as time is important here. An attack for 2 in for Bogue. Top 4, trying to find a Hydroid Krasis, wants that win con. Can't find it yet with Tamiyo. Ugin will plus again, make another 2/2. I like everything about what's going on here on Samuel's side. How can he press the issue? How can he get more damage in? He's going to cast Nexus of Fate. Does he have the mana? He does. It's 7 mana.
All right.
And a sporting play here from Kenta. Concedes. That is...
Yeah.
And I want to just say, Sporting move here because Kenta already's in the 1 draw bracket. Like, there's a chance that Kenta could just say, yeah, and let it resolve and get a draw out of that. But it is the kind of game where on his 0-card hand, he's not going to come back from the Nexus.
Yeah, exactly. He just kind of knows. And there's even a spot where Bogue has power on the battlefield. So sometimes you can kind of play for the draw if there's not a threat already in play. But the fact is, he can be attacked. He knows he's dead. That's just kind of good on Kenta. I agree.
Yeah, it's excellent. So Samuel Bogue now picking up a win there, stays at X and 2. Simic Nexus. So I know we've been kind of hyping Command the Dreadhorde as the ramp go big deck. How do you feel about Simic Nexus then in this meta? It's doing a similar thing.
So it's close. That's one where as long as the person piloting it can check Teferi Time Raveler, then it's fine.
Yeah.
Because that card just hurts Wilderness Reclamation so much, and that's the card that the deck kind of lives or dies by. Whenever you have something like Wilderness Reclamation, or it's going to help your deck reach the critical mass of basically just resources that it needs to function in order to activate an Ascanta and also cast a Nexus. That's 11 mana on its own, and a lot of times you need to activate Ascanta multiple times, which you just can't do without Wilderness Reclamation getting involved.
That sounds right. The things we're noticing right now in the control decks is because they can't play counterspells, they're playing Planeswalkers. Narset and Teferi, their passive abilities are inconvenient, I think, for the Nexus deck. And the Command the Dreadhorde deck, a similar style, is a lot better against those effects.
Yes, absolutely. There's a point where just being able to put creatures on the battlefield and contribute less cards to your combo is a big, big deal.
Yeah, so win there then by Samuel Bogue. Nexus improves. He improves to 9 and 2. Kenta, 2 losses to start the day, so 8, 2, and 1 still should be pretty good. Speaking of Command the Dreadhorde, or other big mana deck, we did get a chance to talk through that one with Jim Davis. He was in 3rd place going into the round. Let's go over to the sideboard and hear what he has to say about it.